Forensic sciences are used around the world as a way to help solve civil disputes, to protect the health of the public, to enforce government regulations and criminal laws. Any science used for the purposes of law is a forensic science. Forensic science became identified with the prosecution of criminal cases and with law enforcement. Forensic science falls under a range of different categories, depending on what is desired to be found. You can get forensic scientists in the fields of anthropology, biology, criminalistics, digital and media sciences, jurisprudence, odontology, pathology, psychiatry and behavioral science, question documents, and toxicology. Though, the main field I will be focusing on is criminalistics. Forensic scientists in the field of criminalistics must interpret physical evidence, analyze, compare, then identify the evidence before reporting the results so it can be used in the justice system. There are two primary functions found in forensic laboratories. The first is identifying evidence, and the second is linking objects, locations, and individuals through the physical evidence they find. Physical evidence can be anything. It could be a pool of blood, a hair, or a whiff of gas at an arson scene. Sometimes the evidence could be easier to find, such as a pool of blood at a homicide scene. To find if the physical evidence is useful to the case, criminalists will sort, compare, then identify the evidence using chemical tests and instruments to develop useful information so it may be used in a trial or in an investigation. In their investigations, criminalists may find that a bloodstain from the main suspect's car matches the DNA profile of the victim. It could even be that they find a bullet and find out what type of gun it was shot from. All types of analysis are very rarely routine, as they require an eye for the tiniest detail and an ability to apply their knowledge from a broad, practical, scientific background. Here are three ways criminalists find the suspect to be guilty. The first is through DNA fingerprinting. DNA fingerprinting is one of the easier ways to find a person guilty, as everyone on Earth has DNA that is unique to them. DNA databases are built to contain DNA profiles of many different people. When DNA is found at a crime scene, criminalists compare that DNA to the database to find the identity of the DNA owner. Though, even if it is a positive test, it does not mean that that person committed the crime. The next way is soil analysis. If a crime has been committed and the person who committed the crime has not left any trace of them, it can make figuring out their identity much more difficult. If criminalists can't figure out who someone is, they might be able to figure out where they are. Forensic soil analysis is the field of research that analyzes soil. Soil can act like fingerprints, as every soil has their own unique properties that act as identification markers. As an example, if soil is taken from a suspect's shoe, the soil can be traced to see where the suspect has recently been. There is a property in soil that can be measured. That property is the pH, the level of acidity and alkalinity in the soil. pH measures acidity on a scale from 0 to 14. 0 to 7 is acidic, whereas 7 to 14 is alkaline. Australia, for example, has a wide difference in pH, as we have large areas of acidic and alkaline soils. The pH can tell us what environment the soil is from. More acidic soils could be from a farm or a mine, whilst alkaline soils could be from either lakesides or salt flats. The final way I will be talking about is fibre analysis. Clothing fibres are commonly picked up from crime scenes. Fibre is small threads of fabric that make up clothes and other types of fabrics. Fibres can often come loose from clothing, either by dropping off from old clothes or getting caught on things and coming out. Obviously, this is not good for the criminal. To identify the type of clothing the fibre has come from, criminalists analyse the fibres under a microscope. By looking closely at them, they can find similarities by comparing threads. Although fibre analysis is not as reliable as DNA evidence, it can be used to place a suspect at the scene of a crime. It is one of the many tools that can help build a suspect's guilt, but is never used in isolation. These are just three of the ways forensic science is used in criminalistics. By doing this, it helps detectives find suspects to the crimes.